We begin with Vice President Kashim Shettima, who yesterday said the federal government was deliberately investing in the micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, clinics initiative. And that's because of its capacity to generate jobs, reduce poverty and contribute significantly to the country's GDP. Speaking at the 7th expanded national MSME clinics in Akure, the Ondo state capital, Shettima explained that the initiative was part of President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda aimed at unlocking the potential of Nigeria's small business sector. Shettima emphasized that the clinics were designed to take government agencies closer to the people, eliminate bottlenecks in business registration and regulation, and provide real-time support to entrepreneurs. He said the goal was to ensure that every Nigerian, regardless of location, had access to the tools and opportunities needed to build and grow sustainable business. Ondo State Governor Dr. Lucky Ayedatiwa described the MSME clinics as a timely intervention that aligned with the state efforts to promote entrepreneurship and sustainable growth. And now to the oil and gas sector, where the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Commission, the NUPRC, has released the concession status of 243 oil blocks, maintaining that contrary to a recent newspaper report of abandoning some oil assets, nothing could be further from the truth. The NUPRC said in a statement yesterday that this was done in the spirit of transparency as envisaged by the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. A report recently had insinuated that Nigeria currently has 220 open oil blocks scattered across its onshore and offshore basins, quoting data from the NUPRC. It alleged that the deep offshore terrain accounts for the highest number of unlicensed blocks at 59, highlighting the country's underexploited energy wealth in its most technically advanced but capital-intensive region. But the Commission clarified that 220 oil blocks were not abandoned, but simply awaiting concessions in line with Section 7 of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, which empowers the Commission to conduct periodic licensing rounds and grant petroleum prospecting licenses and petroleum mining leases to prospective investors. The Commission further stated that the 220 oil blocks would be handed to concessionaries after periodic bid rounds and conditions had been met. And now, finally, but certainly not least, President Bola Tinubu yesterday mourned the widow of the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, that's Dr. Doyin Hamidat Abiola, saying she was an Amazon, journalism icon, trailblazer, and a soldier of democracy. Tinubu, in a tribute, described the first female editor of a national newspaper in Nigeria as an epitome of integrity, tenacity, hard work, and commitment to excellence. Tinubu, in an emotional tribute, stated that Dr. Doyin Abiola was an Amazon and an icon in Nigerian journalism. She broke the gender barrier, becoming the first woman to edit a national newspaper and the first managing director of a daily newspaper. The president highlighted the late Mrs. Abiola's commitment to the June 12 struggle, that when the June 12 election won by her husband was annulled, she did not stand aside. Despite the military junta shutting down the Concord Group, she also joined the fray, demanding the validation of the election. She was a soldier of democracy in her own right. Similarly, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, his Ogun State counterpart Dapo Abiodun, Minister of Solid Minerals Development Dele Alake, the leaderships of Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria and Nigerian Guild of Editors grieved with the family of the deceased. Of course, we received this news early yesterday morning at FME, and of course, people continue to react. And what a loss, especially for us as women in media, to somebody who was a trailblazer and an icon.
I think the president's tribute to Dr. Doyin Abiola is fitting. The words that he used was wonderful, and I think in addition to it being fitting and wonderful, they are accurate. This is exactly the words that should be used for such a great woman, a pioneer and icon, someone who shattered glass ceilings, built a ladder for women in journalism. So this is a loss to so many people. And you can see that throughout the scale of tributes. So not only are you seeing it from the highest echelons of the federal government in Nigeria, but also state governors, but also many, many journalists, many people I saw on social media sharing their own thoughts, their own tributes to her, expressing their own condolences. I spoke to Tunjun Abiola yesterday, of course, speaking to her about her own feelings about this situation. Of course, this is something that is very difficult for her and the entire Abiola family. They have our thorough and deepest sympathies, because this is just a huge loss to journalism, to democracy, to Nigeria, and of course, one of their many matriarchs in the Abiola family. So we do extend our own condolences there too. I'd also like to talk about the Vice President's comments on the federal government investing in MSMEs. I think that it is also something that should be applauded and welcomed. I think that when we're getting to a point of talking about investing in medium, small enterprises, absolutely, there is always going to be a need for it. And I think that when we're talking about the issues befuddling different regions of Nigeria, certain regions feeling disenfranchised, feeling left out, not feeling prioritized by the government of today. This is something that is going to attack them and hopefully trickle down to them. I think what we need to be cautious of is just hoping that this is not an example of us lauding the federal government, applauding them for an announcement, but really not seeing the effects of it. So I would love, hopefully sooner rather than later, to actually hear the beneficiaries of these efforts, of this investment, to come out and say, yes, absolutely, this is what the federal government has done for us. These are the different metrics in which our businesses, our entrepreneurial lives have improved off the back of this, because I think that it is fitting, and it's definitely a time where many people are experiencing hardship. So if we want to, of course, fix the economy on these grand scales, we do need to see grassroots levels. As the president said, water needs to be grass. Grass needs to be watered, essentially. So I hope that this is an example of that. And I would love to hear beneficiaries of these efforts come out and say, absolutely, the reports are true. It's not just people discussing. It's not just politicians saying that they're going to do something. They have actually done it. And this is how our lives have improved thereafter. I think that that is the very least a government can do for its people. And we hope that it does trickle down to everyone who does need it. Those are my comments for today.
Very apt, Femi. Truth is, our condolences once again. Chief Mrs. And Dr. Doyin Abiola was not just that woman, like I said yesterday, that got into a position because her husband owned the paper. Was somebody that had a career that was already soaring high. Then she came into the fray of Concord, and she provided impact, famously called Mama Paper. And that's the kind of impact. Because you see, I also see a narrative in society where some people try to mitigate her efforts and say, oh, because she was married to Bashir M.K. Abiola. Apart from that, she also had made impact. She also had worked in Sketch. Sketch was a prominent paper, especially in the Southwest, used to be owned by the Odua Investment Group. And they've got some rich archive. I mean, the last time I saw some of the archives out of Sketch was at the Cocoa House, top 22nd floor, thereabout at Cocoa House, where you can still get some treasure trove of archival material of Sketch. And she worked in a paper the Concord newspaper, that was the first, actually, to convert archives to microfilms. That was the kind of innovation MK Abiola brought to the fray with the Concord newspaper. It was a time of very dogged journalism. So you had the likes of Mama Doyin Abiola, you had the likes of Dele Giwa before he left the Concord to go set up his paper. You had the likes of Dele Momodu pass through her. You had the likes of the current Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alaki, pass through her. You have the likes of Bayo Onuga, also working in the Concord fray. You also had the likes of Babafemi Ojudu, also passing through the Concord fray. So name it. The veteran journalists we talk about today are people that passed through the Concord. We all remember the story how Bayo Onuga and Babafemi Ojudu went ahead to go start the news after leaving the Concord. So that's the kind of long line of quality journalism she built. And that's why we'll never forget her. And you know, to all our friends and family members and those she left behind, she will continue to be a source of inspiration that a lot of people can look at. And I'm also happy that after that fitting position she got to edit a national daily, being the first woman, if my stats don't fail me, I think the next person that took that position to be the second person to edit a national journal is, guess who? Our Oni Joma Nwogogo here at the Arise family. And that shows you the dynamism of Prince Nduka Obaigbana. So yeah, the Abiola folk made the first, female editor of a national daily. We took that position, and Ijoma Owogu continues to blaze the trail, a very stellar individual, constantly voted as one of the top, female journalists and top journalists in this country. The second story, it's good to give money to MSMEs. I'm happy about it. It's a good one. But with all of this, I like to see the transparency trail. So I think a couple of years ago, no, I think it was about last year thereabout, or 2023 or 2024, the year eludes me now. After President Tinubu removed subsidy, there was a famous speech he gave where he made some announcements in an effort to cushion subsidies, some of the grants that will go to SMEs, the agricultural sector, and everything. The question is, has that money gone to the SMEs? I would like to ask Bank of Industry, can we get the data of people that it has gone to? So we can have exit data, just like the reason I was asking for ginger tonnage in Nigeria yesterday. So that we'll be able to track. And data gives you a picture. So nobody needs to give us a context. Once we have the data, we can be able to plot a context. Secondly, there are many things that make MSME grow. It's not only money. And I'm happy that they had a clinic where they are training people. But apart from that, ease of doing business. What's the logistical ecosystem? Are the roads good? How can I move a product from Lagos to Abuja without paying various informal taxes? What's the quality of roads? What's the quality of logistics? What's the quality of infrastructure? Even what's the spending power of the people in the markets? So these are the things that come together to make an MSME. Money is good, yes, it's a part of it. Transparency is also good, but is there an enabling environment? Another thing that will help an MSME is inflation. This morning I woke up doing some mathematics. As of 2015, Nigeria's inflation rate was about 9%. The CBN target for inflation was the 9% threshold. I don't know, maybe the CBN has reevaluated the inflation target. But let's take that benchmark as a 9% threshold and minus it by the current inflation we have today, about 22%. You'll get about 12-13%. That's the percentage point of inflation that is burdening our economy. So let's say that's ineffective or inefficiencies with inflation. Let's hold that 13% number. What's our national GDP? 246 billion based on the rebasing. If you are to divide it by 365 days, it should give you well over 600 million, maybe 67 million thereabout, if my math serves me right. Take that 13%, divide it by $67 million. You should be getting something about $80 million. So let's say inflation is a tax we pay on inefficiencies. So we pay a tax on our GDP every day of about $80 million, part of the 667 million GDP we're supposed to have on a daily basis. That's how inflation destroys all of us. You and I, even by Femi, we've all paid that inflation tax today. Let's extrapolate it. This 250,000 given to an individual, which is a good amount. Take that 12%, this inflation tax, divide it by the 250,000. You get about 30,000 naira. So out of the money that's given to MSMEs, inflation will have taken 30,000 naira out. And I can iterate that calculation for almost every area of our life. And that's why we keep saying we must do something about inflation. Because that's also dampening the ecosystem. That's taking away purchasing power. That's taking away purchasing power. That's taking away fecundity of the economy. You can't spend much more. Try to go to the cinema. To watch an average movie, if you buy popcorn and water and the movie tickets, set you back 14,000 naira. Calculate that as a percentage of your minimum wage. I yield the floor.
There's very harsh realities that you're pointing out this morning, Rufai, and you couldn't be more correct. Now, when we look at this initiative targeted towards the MSMEs, I think it's important to applaud it. It's a laudable cause because we know that the MSMEs employ about 60 million Nigerians. They account for 90% of businesses in Nigeria, and 45% of the economy is employed from MSMEs. So it's important. They are a strategically important part of our economy. Now, they've said that in this particular initiative, 250,000 outstanding businesses shall be given a grant, not a loan, in order to be able to further their businesses and deepen their business structures. The first question is, how are these businesses being selected? What is the criteria that has been created? Specifically, this is the 7th edition taking place in Ondo State. The same initiative has been rolled out in Ekiti and other states. So what criteria are we using? Because these clinics themselves are supposed to help people formalize their businesses, to get them registered, to ensure that they're paying tax and so forth and so forth. So we want to know, because the concern is that we've had these grants being shared in the past. We've had Sure P in 2012. We've had Trader Money, which was on the lower end for traders and artisans, but nevertheless, MSMEs. We had the COVID-19 MSME fund. What was the impact of all of these funds for MSMEs? Were they transparent? How much did they contribute towards our GDP in all of these other sessions that they have been done? Is there even a database for MSMEs? How are we selecting? This is because we're saying if we're choosing the most outstanding MSMEs, we want to know what's the criteria. Most importantly, we want to ensure that it is not partisan. Because in the past, we've seen that there have been these announcements, these funds have been created, but we don't get to see the outcome of it. We don't really get to see a sizable number of stories coming out, with people coming out with their testimonies, because this is the type of thing where we are supposed to be able to see testimonies and hear them and see the economic impact. So a noble cause and a laudable cause, but our appeal is that let's not make the mistakes that we've made in the past that made some of these initiatives ineffective in their implementation. That's number one. Number two, I think, yes, it's important that we're focusing on MSMEs, but we continue to have this conversation around the importance of industrialization. What are we doing with our industrial policy? Because yes, we can give 250,000 to a number of entrepreneurs and so forth, but in the bigger scheme of things, in the grander scheme of creating employment, expanding the economy, expanding opportunities, even attracting capital importation. Yesterday, we took a look at the capital importation numbers. It was all focused on portfolio investments, hot money as they call it. The production sector, manufacturing, I think was at number 3, only imported 2% of Nigeria's capital importation. FDI dropped drastically. What are we creating? Because when you look at countries like China, like Vietnam, Singapore, countries that had rapid industrialization and eventually attracted a large number of foreign direct investment, they did the work themselves. Investors are not looking for industries that are in their infancy stage. They want to see something that's moving, that's feasible, that's bankable, because it's not a gamble for them. So I think, yes, let's focus on MSMEs because a lot of our people are already involved in this sector. However, we have to remember that many are not voluntarily involved in the sector. Many have gone into MSMEs because they cannot find jobs. So our industries, our manufacturers need to be ramped up so that those who don't want to be entrepreneurs are not forced into entrepreneurialism by the state of affairs of the nation. They can go and work and be part of the labor force. That's on that. I'll quickly touch on oil and gas issues. I think it's very important that the NUPRC has issued this statement saying that there are no abandoned oil blocks as per the report that was released earlier this week, and that we're waiting for concessions. Now, the report was important. I'm glad that we're having this conversation because, yes, as much as NUPRC has said we're waiting for the licensing and waiting for the bidding rounds, it needs to be expedited because we are still an oil-dependent economy. So we can't afford to have these big lags where the oil blocks exist. We've got billions of barrels of oil stuck under the ground, but we're not moving with efficiency with regards to making sure these bid rounds are happening as periodically as they should. Because my understanding is that for 2025, we're yet to have a bid round, and yet we are in the month of August already. So let's ensure that, thank you for this statement, thank you for informing us that yes, the concessions are awaiting the bid, but let's expedite this process, because as we await the diversification of our economy, as we await industrialization to be ramped up, as we await for various other things to fall into place, we are still dependent on this oil. Our target had been 2.2 million, barrels per day. We're still a far cry from that. Now, if you look at countries like Angola, I always use Angola as an example because the economic profile of Angola is very similar to Nigeria, heavily oil dependent for foreign currency revenue. You'll find that with all the oil shocks we've experienced this year, all the ups and downs thanks to trade wars and issues with Iran and so forth, Angola has now realized that after pegging their budget at $70, that they're going to be forced to go to the IMF to be able to support their budget this year. That's how volatile this year has been for the oil and gas sector. So I think it's important that we expedite the process of getting these concessions underway. Let these oil blocks become productive, let them contribute to our economy, and let us feel the impact of more foreign currency coming into the economy.